Wow, that started fast. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, as always, Chad Porto, and joining me is my glorious co-host. No, he's not a United States champion, but he's a world champion of our hearts. Daw. That's the one and the only Marcus Green. Marcus, how are you?
Thank you, kind sir. We're doing good.
Marcus, you are starting a new venture of sorts with
Yes.
with a new magazine. Well, I shouldn't say a new magazine, but it's new for us. And you're covering Impact teleconferences, which I think is very cool. You had texted me and called me the other like a few weeks ago for help, and didn't even put two and two together. I just thought you were doing it. I was like, all right, yeah, I'll help you. So far, what's been your experiences doing these conference calls?
It's been pretty good. It's been pretty good. Obviously, getting to hear from some of these guys I watch every week has been really cool. Obviously, I just did the one with Austin Aries. The one before that was Allie and Braxton Sutter. Yeah, it's been fun. Getting to know these wrestlers from another point of view. Obviously, some of the questions that get asked aren't as interesting by some of these journalists from these outlets as others. When it pertains to what they eat and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice round table of stuff, and for the most part, it's all good professionals and kind of smooth. So yeah, it's been cool.
Well, if you ever want to divulge, I shouldn't say divulge because it's not like you're giving up secrets. But if you ever want to have your own little moment on any of one of these shows where you talk about what you guys heard or what you asked, I'm down for that.
Yeah,
That's up to you.
yeah, no, it's mostly because the one with Allie and Braxton, it was around some Valentine's Day questions came up, and with me, I'm mostly interested in stuff dealing with the wrestling. So for me, that was just kind of boring, just
Yeah.
asking what's that, what are your Valentine's Day plans? I'm like, really? Come on, man, like.
What are my Valentine's Day plans? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Quart of Haagen Dazs, a lot of root beer. Why? What do you got planned? You can find Marcus on Total Wrestling Mag, the link of which is now up on the website. Go to realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdCorp. You just scroll on down to you see Marcus on the left hand sidebar, and it says on Total Wrestling Mag. So, very cool stuff. All kinds of goodies that you can find on that website. I checked it out last night, and I was very impressed with what I saw. And I read Marcus's write up on the Austin Aries teleconference stuff. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and go do that. So Austin Aries is having a pretty good week. He's having a pretty good 2018 so far. He's got like 20,000 championships.
Yeah.
He's set to headline the first Impact Wrestling pay-per-view of the year against, spoiler, Alberto El Patron, I think. Is that who it was? I think. I don't remember now. We'll find out now, won't we? But he's set to headline it.
Yeah.
So pretty big, nice run for him. But the real conversation today is Hall of Famers, and Austin Aries might be an Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame, assuming that they do it again because they didn't do one this year. But on the WWE side, we got a new announcement, and it's one that I am oh so happy for. It's one Miss Ivory going into the WWE Hall of Fame, and I just realized this like so I've been a wrestling fan since 1990. But I never really watched the WWE consistently until '99. I was a WCW boy.
Mm.
I never realized that like the one of the first nights I started watching WWE was the night Ivory debuted. Didn't even realize that.
Full circle.
Right? Like so like I was like, "Oh, I remember that shit. I remember that moment." So I thought that was pretty cool. She's so much fun to listen to on her promos, in her shoot interviews. She sounds like a delight to hang out with. And she really was one of the original OGs in terms of women who could wrestle. And she
Yeah.
dates all the way back to the original Glow series.
Yeah.
Plus, she was matched with our dudes, D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry.
Nice. And of course, only appropriate that she's going in with Henry, in same class. I don't think Henry's been announced yet, so. Um, but
He's
yeah, man.
rumored.
Yeah, rumored. Hopefully that does go through because he deserves it. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, she's definitely one of those trailblazers when you talk about. how much stake they like to put in that Divas revolution, women's revolution, I should say, and how that got kicked off. She was very much a part of that first guard, if you will, to kind of getting that off. She very much reminds me in that ilk of a Jacqueline who, was very fit and stuff, and obviously took part in a lot of the more scantily clad part of that time with the women, which I'm by no means knocking, but she obviously took part in that and elevated along with a lot of those women to get inside that ring to be taken more seriously. And like you said, in her shoot interviews, she seems like she kept a level head for most of that stuff. As those days were kind of far more wild than they are now because everything's kind of just real conservative. But yeah, she was a very big part and played a big role in that like I said, that first guard, and now she's getting the credit for it. So
She and Miss Jackie, because Jackie was a completely different thing. Miss Jackie and her were probably the two most well polished women's wrestlers of their generation, next to China. Although I would say China's more, I would say she's more comparable to a Bill Goldberg of the women's division. She wasn't a great hand, but she was very impressive
yeah,
physically. So I would definitely say that those two were more talented than her. That being said, though, China deserves to be in just as much as anyone. But Ivory and Miss Jackie were two of the stalwarts, and then of course Ivory becomes one of the biggest heels in women's history because she joins up with the Right to Censor, who were censoring all the nudity and the sexiness. So she really found her niche right there, and that was a pretty cool thing to see. Then she became a really well known trainer, did a lot of great things there as well. So she really established herself quite well, especially beyond her wrestling tenure. So to see
yeah,
her go in is awesome. But we also have another rumor. Mark Henry's rumored to be going in this year. Ivory rumored to be going in this year. The person who both Mark Henry and Ivory arguably had their biggest feuds against in 1999 was against Jeff Jarrett. And now rumors breaking. I haven't heard anything about it yet, but I'm seeing it posted other places. Rumor has it that Jeff Jarrett is in consideration for the WWE Hall of Fame, and he's certainly a candidate. You look at what he did in 1999, and he was arguably their biggest true heel in 1999. And I know I've been a Jarrett homer, a Jarrett fanboy in the past in terms of how much I admire his run and his career, but I'm not saying this to fluff him up. Triple H for first 3 months of '99 was a face. Jarrett was a heel. Taker and Kane and Rock were all tweeners. Like there wasn't really a true definitive heel. You could argue Triple H was, and I think that's a fair argument. But outside of Triple H, it was Jarrett. He was the biggest heel in the company outside of Triple H in '99. So I think when you look at what he's accomplished in WCW, in WWE, I think he's a Hall of Famer. Marcus, do you think Jeff Jarrett's a Hall of Famer in the WWE?
yeah. I mean, like we talked about before, at this point with the Hall of Fame, there's really no criteria with the thing. So how people feel about it is really kind of irrelevant because they kind of just do the classes however they want to do them. And we talked about it before. This year's class has the potential to be one of their best.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think of Jared, I'm not as familiar with his run with WWE because obviously I was watching more stuff in TNA afterwards. But yeah, I mean he's been all over, been everywhere, been a very pivotal part of the business, and yeah, like I said, there's really no criteria, so he's just as good of a name as anybody else. I mean, he's certainly done more than the guys they put in previously. So, what the hell? And I'm pretty sure they may have something to do with, getting him some help, during this time, having to kind of step back from the business and kind of take care of some personal matters. So,
Mm-hmm.
the company is good with that. So, definitely somebody I can go in.
I like to call it it used to be the Coco Beware bottom. If you could make a case that you were more relevant than Coco Beware, you got to be in the Hall of Fame. Um, I don't know if I would say the Godfather is above or below Coco Beware, but I think they're on the same echelon. So I think if you can make a case that you were more relevant or pertinent than Coco Beware and or Godfather, I think you can make a case for yourself. I think Rikishi's in that conversation as well, in terms of the bottomed out. So yeah, I definitely think Jarrett's more
Yeah,
relevant than those three. What was that?
yeah. I'll say yeah. No, no pun intended with the bottoms out with Rikishi.
Oh, good. I would not want to see that man in assless chaps. Just putting that one out there into the ether. The WWE Hall of Fame is filled with a lot of weird kind of selections. Now, I understand the celebrities of it all. Like, that's fine. I get it. It's not one of the things I necessarily agree with because they have an... Like, they have Bob Barker in the Hall of Fame. They have Drew Carey, like, one-time appearances. That doesn't make any sense. But then
But
you have other celebrities that have been involved for a while, and they're not in at all.
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's kind of just up in the air thing. I mean, even going back to the wrestlers for a second, a lot of times, obviously, they have people that have went in twice and went in because of obviously factions that they've been in, like a Ric Flair.
Hmm.
Uh, but they also do a thing where a lot of times they'll have somebody who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but not necessarily for the gimmick they put them in there for.
Yep. Or like they'll
Which,
have a strong run in another company and then be like, "Oh yeah, remember when he was the Sultan?" What?
you remember when Chavo was,
Kerwin
was
R. Weiss.
yeah, Curry and all white, pivotal. It was so pivotal.
He was a Mexican who wanted to be a Caucasian. Great stuff. Best run of Eddie's career. Whoa. Okay, Vince, calm down. Get off that. So yeah, the WWE Hall of Fame is just full of just reallys,
Yeah.
reallys. However, that being said, Sting, Kurt Angle, the Dudleys are going in this year. If you put Jeff Jarrett in, that's five. That's literally your first 4 years of the TNA Hall of Fame now in the WWE Hall of Fame.
It's, it's
And they all went in first, by the way, into
It's,
TNA's.
it's funny because had you kept rattling off stuff, I would have thought you were talking about TNA's Hall of Fame. The
That's
Dudley, Sting, Kurt Angle.
it. Literally is, and they went in the same order. They were announced in the same order. First it was Sting, then it was Kurt Angle, then it was Team 3, and now if Jeff Jarrett's announced, boom.
It's such a weird thing because people won't acknowledge TNA's Hall of Fame, but argue down about WWE, knowing full well that it's the most lackadaisical thing, one of the most lackadaisical things that they do because there's no real criteria, and it's not a physical Hall of Fame. So if you want to put it in terms of ridiculousness, I mean, TNA has a more legitimate Hall of Fame. And obviously, it's not been around as many years, but there's a bigger deal because the company's a bigger deal. But I mean, I'd stack their Hall of Fame up right now with WWE just because, like I said, the legitimacy of it. I mean, you got
Hmm.
Earl Hebner, the Douglas, Sting, Kurt Angle, Gail Kim. You can't
Hmm.
argue about these names.
You can't. You can't. There is no name in the TNA Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame that you would argue or look at as someone who's undeserving. Yet I can look at everyone in the WWE Hall of Fame and find at least maybe 30% who don't belong in there in terms of the Hall of Fame-ness. So I'm just waiting for the day when WWE announces Peter Rosenberg going into the WWE Hall of Fame. That'll be fun.
Oh God, it's gonna be yeah, it's any day now. And as far as people talking about with China and stuff still being pissed off about that, they're probably gonna get in there.
Yeah.
And they're probably gonna get in there when they've absolutely run out of all the names possible. Like when they legitimately run out, because once you get Triple H and Stephanie going, she deserves to go in. Okay, so they got over that hump. But that's basically to me saying, okay, when we absolutely run the well drive, we'll sneak in there. I mean, it's not like it's gonna be one of those things where it's too late because she's passed, unfortunately. So,
Hmm.
but they did the same thing with Randy. A lot of people say they put him in there too late, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, and we haven't even gotten to guys like Vader yet or Bam Bam Bigelow. At least I don't think Bam Bam's in yet. So you just think of all the names that aren't even in yet, and it's kind of. I don't want to say it's upsetting because there's always an opportunity to rectify it down the road, but it's kind of mind boggling. Like, it's one thing if you have like a plan. Like, if you look at, like, let's just say for the sake of argument, they were looking at Randy Savage for 2007 or 2008 or whatever. And they're like, well, we have, Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan in '06 or '05, '06. Then we have Stone Cold, and then we have, so-and-so. And we don't want to just, not have headliners, so we'll put Randy Savage in X year. But that's not how they did it. They just weren't doing it, and then they decided to do it after he'd passed, and it kind of comes off as disingenuous. Like, you won't do business with him when he's alive, but you'll do business with his estate. Well, that just shows me that they didn't want anything to do with, or that he didn't want anything to do with you. Now, in the case of Savage, though, I do want to point out that they had started to rehab their relationship prior, because they did that video where he appeared on WWE.com hawking some kind of like toy or merchandise of himself, because it was like the first time in years that they released a Macho Man action figure under the WWE license. So he did something like that, but that was a one-time thing, and we unfortunately never got to see anything more with him going forward. God knows I would love to have seen that Randy Savage Stephanie McMahon video. That would have been hilarious. Oh, well, I thought it would have been hilarious.
That's the one piece of business that will never get solved, and we're gonna be 40 still talking about. Boy, I can't wait. The show need to clear that up.
Right? Like, I can't wait for someone to, like, Stephanie's going to be on, like, Good Morning America or, like, The View or The Talk or whatever, and they're talking about first times, and she goes, well, I was with Randy Poffo. Oh, no.
Or it's just gonna be
She
like,
just slips out.
or it's just gonna be like one of those times where it's another huge WWE dump of leaked particular photos, and then we're gonna get something with her, and then it's gonna crash everything because that's gonna be taken down within 3 minutes the minute that gets back to the headquarters.
Well, I guess let's just say this: if Stephanie ever does run afoul with some illicit photos with her and Macho Man, well, I guess her desire to be a mainstream star will have been solidified. Because she'll have broken the internet. People are gonna hate us tonight. So, I watched a few minutes of SmackDown tonight. Wow, it's bad.
Man, they dead in the water, man. It's all like I talked about this before too. This whole thing with Daniel Bryan and Shane is just it's the shits. I don't like it's absolute shits. Like him and Daniel Bryan are just having these hella awkward interactions week after week. I don't know where it's gonna go because they're not gonna let Bryan so much as take a bump. And Shane, I don't really have any desire to see him in the ring. And really, when you look at everything that's going on with the main title, AJ Styles feels like he can put in the background until him and Nakamura have to clash. So, like, was he even on the show tonight, considering the fact that he basically got screwed over getting put in the fatal four-way?
Not that I saw. I missed the first 20 minutes or so I don't really I don't know if he was on there, and then I didn't catch the last 10 or 15 minutes. But I caught most of it in between, and yeesh.
Yeah,
That
man.
New Day Benjables promo, oh.
Yeah, that was bad. Like the pancakes was more over than that whole deal, man. Because Benjamin and Gable got pushed out of the title picture, they kind of just doing what they're doing right now. So, and you went off about this, I think, on the last couple shows. We don't need the words on the screen, okay? WWE, this isn't freaking Sesame Street, okay? Like we good. We can hear them, we can see them. You have great production value. If nothing else, we're not babies or illiterate or on Ritalin or whatever. We can comprehend stuff. This is not helping with these USO promos.
Come and meet the letter people. A, B, C, D, follow me.
Any week now. P for penitentiary. P.
P! P for pancakes! The pancake penitentiary! That, kids, it's called alliteration. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. We'll bring out Benjables. He's the new dinosaur wrestler, played by Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gables. It's going to be a two-part dinosaur suit. And he's going to teach kids how to spell, do math, and how to escape piss test results. Roman Reigns will be a guest judge on that one. Guest official. So, yeah, SmackDown was hard to get through this week. Impact was pretty good. I liked Impact this week. But the one thing that I think we got to talk about is from Raw. You know what it is. Oh, Elias, you had to catch those hands, didn't you? I make it a point to not watch WWE television, mostly because it's hard to get through. But when you hear something so absurd, and this is all I saw in the text from somebody, they're one of the people who send me information about the behind the things, but we also maintain a friendship of sorts. And they asked, "Hey, what'd you think of?" And this is the exact quote: "Hey, what'd you think of Elias eating a cello?" And I went, "What?" They said, "Did you not watch Raw tonight?" I'm like, "Do I ever?" So I then go and check out Raw, and I see Braun Strowman strumming a goddamn cello, singing. And Marcus, I tell you what, I both loved it and hated it. On one hand, I thought it was dumb that someone so fierce and horrifying is playing an instrument singing. Singing rather well, by the way. Very surprised about that. Like, I thought I was going to be surprised that this man is as over as he is heading into this part of the year. No, I'm more surprised now that he can sing as to opposed to how over he is. But not only can he sing, but he played the cello and then he just fucked up Elias with it. Man, Marcus, I have never wanted to see an Elimination Chamber match more in the last 10 years than I do this one, off of this one segment. What did you think of the Braun Strowman cello playing?
I was actually, because I make it a habit not to try to go back and rewatch anything from Raw. I was going back and watching it as you were talking, that segment. That is, you know why it's so good and bad at the same time? Because obviously you don't like to see something pushed so hard in a monstrous way that you want them to deter with something as silly as that. But there's something very terrifying about seeing something that big and like I said, monstrous do something like that with a smile on his face. Because the damn thing was almost as big as Braun, if not bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it was a gimmick thing because he would have killed him if it wasn't. But yeah, it was terrifying, and because Braun is so consistently kicking people's ass, he can get away with it. You know what it is? Very much, and I think one of those WWE accounts, I think it was WWE history account or whatever. It was the Brock Lesnar da la 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 bamba for all them years ago.
Oh, when he came out with the mariachi and the head, whatever that is, the hat.
Yeah, that's what that is. Because you can easily do a thing where, because the it's terrifying watching Brock smile because I mean it's Brock, but when you do something like that and then all of a sudden they stop on a dime and start killing people, it's an automatic great reaction. So I think when Braun, and it's funny because somebody like Braun talking about getting these hands, when Braun attacks you, you don't just get hands, you get everything. So yeah, it's classic, and Elias is a great victim.
It was one of those moments that kind of had me aghast because I didn't expect it. One, watching it unfold in real time, I was like, "This is a solid song by Elias." I don't know about you, but I've become an Elias guy. Maybe not like so full on hardcore because I think he's still a pretty rudimentary wrestler. So I think he has a long way to go still. But in terms of a personality, which is what I've been saying for almost a year now, is what is hurting wrestling is not having it. You look at this and you think to yourself, well, here's Elias. He's getting over. He's a great character. And then you introduce Braun Strowman, and he doesn't just come out with a cello, or maybe it was a bass cello or something like that. Comes out, starts playing it, but he also drops the line that we all want him to hear: "I'm not finished with you yet." Or I'm not through with you, or something to that effect. And like when he said that, that was like, okay, shit's about to get real. And then he comes out and beats the shit out of Elias, and he smashes this cello all over Elias on his way out. And the only thing that I was thinking of, Marcus, was rumor confirmed Jeff Jarrett coming to the Hall of Fame because, fun factoid, 13 years ago at Against All Odds, I think it was Against All Odds. I want to say it was against Nash. Jeff Jarrett was banned from using his guitar in a title match. So he ends up using a cello to beat Kevin Nash. So now I'm thinking to myself, Jeff Jarrett's coming in. Like this segment confirms it.
I just came up with a new gimmick thing that they could borrow from a classic cartoon. You remember that? You remember the old guitar playing guy from Tom and Jerry that kept breaking his guitar string.
Yeah.
Oh, Bronze the cat with all the whiskers. You just see Elias just trying to get.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
That'd also be interesting for the Elimination Chamber because Elias and Braun are in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can do a thing where he brings in Elias, like keeps his guitar in there because everything's legal, and then for whatever odd reason, he comes out right after Braun, but he won't come out the pod because he's terrified after his ass whooping.
He's just like crouching in the corner of his pod with his guitar in his hands, shivering, afraid to leave.
You see the door open and Elias is trying to close it back.
Just screaming at the ref. No, 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 no. Pulling his best Vegeta. Kame, no, Ame, no, no, no. So, Raw was interesting because it kind of sets up a few questions that I have. Like, one, both Seth Rollins and Finn Balor won. So does that mean that they're both in the chamber? Is it going to be the first ever 7-man chamber match? Are we going to open up with 3 men in the ring at the first time ever?
Hell, might as well since they doing everything else with the women to make history. They might as well. I mean, the thing with Rollins is he's obviously getting lumped in here because I wanted Finn to win outright. Like, I'm not a huge Rollins fan, although I very much appreciate the fact that they finally gave him back that damn curb stomp.
You don't like the fact that he's a Nazi fucker? Huh. I thought that was everyone's favorite thing about him.
Feel like that's the first time I've heard that.
Right? Like that
but,
joke's new, isn't it?
but yeah, I mean, obviously they're gonna do something. The next week maybe they'll have a match or something. I just don't see how they go through all that and not have the both of them in there. But Finn definitely needs to be in there. Now his chances of winning, that's a different story because obviously as long as Cena's around, the odds are always in his favor. So.
Well, you say Cena, I say Roman. We're both singing the same song, just in a slightly different
God, now he's in there too. Jesus. Now you know what, Finn? Just stay home.
Just stay home. Don't even show up. So the other thing that kind of caught my eye from Raw was Sheamus did a rolling what was that? Rolling splash, rolling shoulder thing on the floor. I forget what the fuck that was called.
You talking about that rolling senton thing he does?
Yeah, it's like the rolling senton with the guy on his shoulders. He did that, and then he took a fucking leaping spear from Roman Reigns. We need to point out that Sheamus is the same physical deformity that Paige and Edge have. In terms of his spinal. He has spinal stenosis, I think is what it's called.
Mm.
If you're the WWE and you just had to retire one of your youngest and most well-known women's wrestlers, why are you letting Sheamus continuing to do things like this? Like, is there a defense to this? Is it like one of those like, well, you're going to be retiring soon anyway, you might as well just go balls to the walls until you have to? Or is there like someone who's not, keeping up with their due diligence on making sure these people aren't killing themselves?
Yeah, it's I mean, I know Sheamus is one of the toughest guys on that roster, but even he has his limits. And like you said, he ain't exactly in his 20s no more, and that body does, wear and tear down specifically on that schedule even more so. So taking something from a guy like that with Reigns, I mean, he already has a brutal enough style as it is. So, they probably do need to ease up. It was good, however, to see Banks not dive this week.
Although that Bailey knee to the face probably wasn't soft.
Yeah, at all. But I think she's just one of those women who, because she so never wanted to be in that realm of the women during that time when they couldn't even so much as really wrestle with each other. They had to kind of slap each other. That she's so far removed from that in her mind, and she very much wants to take stuff like that. So she's all down for the spears from Charlotte and on the big boots, with Charlotte can level anybody with those things. And yeah, I think she prides herself on taking shots like that for whatever reason.
When you said slap, I thought of not Billy Madison, the Water Boy. Slap hands, slap hands, slap hands, slap hands. Just Adam Sandler wanting to high five people.
That's fun. I was just watching the Zohan the other day. Don't mess with the Zohan.
So, quick little detour. Are you a fan of Adam Sandler movies past a certain point?
It's I got my picks with Sandler. Some mostly hit or miss. I think some of his stuff with obviously Rob Schneider, his Road Dogg, are usually hits, but not all of them. So yeah, probably past a certain. I'm trying to see which point that is though, because sometimes he overdoes it.
For me, that line is Big Daddy. Anything post Big Daddy, I just can't get into.
Yeah, and what's that one where he's with all the couples?
Is he in a couple as well?
Yeah,
Grown Ups? With
yeah,
like David Spade and Rob Schneider and Kevin James?
yeah, all them. Yeah, that's pretty okay. Those movies. I think anything past that for me is like I'm out.
Fair enough. Other big kind of revelation this week, if I can remember what it was. Super huge revelation, can't remember it. We talked about the Chamber, talked about the Sheamus. No, I can't remember what the fuck it was. God damn it! It was on the tip of my tongue too. Man, ain't that just a bitch? Ronda Rousey will be signing her contract on. Oh, I remember now. Rousey's signing her contract at Elimination Chamber. Do you want to watch that? Is that something that makes you want to see?
I mean, I don't really see the the point. I mean, I would assume she'd be signing for Raw, right? Like signing
Yeah.
for Raw, signing for things. So I mean, that's really a foregone conclusion in everybody's mind. But because she's so big, as long as she's not doing no more damn points, she looks so awkward. Like, I think you talked about that. That was one of the most awkward. As pretty as she is, um,
She
that
can
that
she can point at anything she wants in front of me. Cause yeah, she looked awkward as fuck, but also like she's stacked. So the way she kind of like moves her hips when she points, I'm
yeah,
just like,
it is,
ah,
it is
ah,
sexy. And she had her hair draping a certain kind of way.
right. And she's wearing Roddy Piper's jacket, which made it so much hotter for some reason. I don't know. I have issues.
Yeah, we're not even really fans of it like that, but she was looking good.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, she was.
but
Like to
yeah,
catch
I
those
don't really.
hands.
A in
Oh,
gentle way possible. Chad's not a fan of that level of violence because you can kill him. But
worst ways to die.
it's the diet. Chad Portal, death by snoo snoo. But
Honestly, it's always how I wanted to go. That or fighting a bear. Not like a poaching bear. Like no, like give me some brass knuckles so it's a little bit fair. But let me and him just go a few rounds and see what happens. If I die, I die. I'm fine with
okay,
that. It's a
like
good
you
death.
talking about you talking about that DiCaprio bear, like
Oh,
that DiCaprio.
maybe, but not as CGI'd and definitely more real and definitely would eat me. Like a brown bear. Like I think brown bears are the biggest bears in North America. Like yeah, let me throw it out with a brown bear. I'd like to see what would happen, or maybe like a grizzly, just for more physicality. Yeah.
Just know that those things are that big on all fours, and the fact that they can stand.
Right.
Oh God, that is terrifying.
We've really marginalized how impressive bears are in this country. Like we always see like stupid things like Paddington bear or this bear or that bear, teddy bear. These things are behemoths.
And they can climb.
Yeah, and they can run like 60 miles an hour. Like fuck. Like if you see like a grizzly bear, like just bend over and kiss your ass goodbye because he'll eat you.
They can haul ass.
They can haul ass. They can out climb you. They can outrun you. Like you better hope you're next to like a body of water because they're a little tentative against rushing streams, and that's about the only way you're gonna get away from him.
Yeah, and what's even worse, and one thing about that movie in particular, the reason why he got effed up as bad as Leo did in that movie was because he was, accidentally ran into some cubs, and then he just
Uh-uh.
got fucking blindsided. Like you see cubs, you need to find your quickest nearest tree and get up that shit.
If you see cubs, just hope to God you're downwind.
Yeah,
Because if you're upwind and she catches your scent, oh, you're gonna get eaten.
that is the worst.
They're gonna find bits of you and her bits of honey, like just everywhere. Ugh.
Yeah, 'cause
So,
yeah, and another thing, you don't know how fast they could like engage you either. Like it's not like they have to build up too much. Like, oh no, he's gonna take a minute to get to me. Like, no, he's gonna take a couple seconds.
Yeah, this isn't like watching a rhino kind of prod around. No. She's a coming. She's a coming hard. So the thing that I wanted to talk about is another rumor that's kind of making its round. The WWE might be doing away with brand exclusive pay-per-view events, Marcus. How do you feel about that?
I think they could take it a step further and cut back on some of these shows. Period. But I guess this is a start. I think they're kind of looking at the stats and looking at the metrics and finding out that obviously most of their shows, when this stuff is dual branded, creates more of a buzz and far better scenarios and matches, because when you have one brand like SmackDown kind of in the doldrums right now, and it's really, a mixed bag a lot of times. I think they want to go for more of a sure thing. And that's easy to do when don't have those limitations of these people have to be on this show and these people have to be on that show. But at the same time, it just goes back to the fact that no matter how much they keep wanting to tell us about these brand splits, it always comes back together anyway. So it's pointless when they do those trades and those because it's always going to come back down to everybody kind of just needs to mingle and do their thing as a unit, because these people work better together anyway. And we want to see a lot of these matchups on these cards, and considering the fact that they never set up a certain thing with the whole trading situation, yeah, they probably should get back to this. So,
Well, this is going to be a place where you and I kind of diverge from our opinions, because I don't like the idea of going to a multi-branded event every month, so to speak. I am in complete agreement that they need to cut back on the number of shows. There should not be 3 or 4 or 5 shows in a span of 2.5 months. That is too much. 1 a month. It's a fucking simple goddamn concept. Like, we are all on board with the 1 a month. January, you got the Royal Rumble. February, you got the SmackDown. March, you got the Raw. April, like early April, you got the WrestleMania, and then you can go and do, or you can flip February and March, right, being Raw and SmackDown, and then you can have Raw after WrestleMania or SmackDown. I don't really give a shit. But then you're back to 1 a month. That's fine. Why not do that? Or, here's an idea. Why not make the shows 2 hours long?
Oh, don't cut into their money, Chad.
I know.
Come on now.
One of the best things that I've seen is Impact making these Twitch shows, and the one that they just made, forget what it's called, but it was with WrestlePro. They had a 2-hour event. Breezed through it. There was nothing really in the way of like a Goldberg, Kevin Owens, or a Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles. But you got Moose beating up some new guy. You got to see some new talent. You got a semi-interesting main event. You had a pretty slick 3-way with Anthony Bowens, McIntosh, I think is what his name was, Matt McIntosh, and Eli Drake, which was a lot of fun to watch. So you got to see some pretty interesting and unique matchups on a 2-hour show that felt special. That's the one thing that I would say these WWE events don't feel. They're special. Plus, they don't really have the same kind of oomph and name power. And they don't do a lot of, a very good job building up to these matches. Like, you get a lot of multi-man matches in the main event for whatever dumbass reason that they think works. Then you look at New Japan, and it's like, oh, we're going to have someone you never heard of against Okada, and we're going to build him up for 3 months, and you're going to want to see it. And then they do that. And then it's like, oh.
That's the thing
awesome.
with WWE, and that's kind of why, get back to my point of why they probably bringing the stuff back together, because they can't individually build these shows up properly. Like, we were talking when the brand split first happened, SmackDown was in the lead of Raw, and now it's like, what are you now you're bringing home C's and D's on your report card? Like, what are you doing? And this is weekly. Like, SmackDown is absolutely pedestrian from week to week. It seems like they're just running the same stuff over and over again. And like you said, it's with WWE's classic quantity over quality. They just lump a bunch of people into matches. But, like, if it's a bunch of people we don't care about, I'm like, okay, it's cool that Corbin and Ziggler are getting a title shot against AJ Styles, but nobody gives a shit about Corbin or Ziggler. And people on Twitter criticizing Ziggler for re-signing. So, like...
He's all kinds of dumb. To be fair, he resigned like 2 years ago, and his contract is still going. I don't think that the re-signing was anytime recent. Well, actually, hang on. Cage Side Seats says differently. Let's check this out. Here's the inside scoop that I've been kind of told. After Ziggler laid down the title and walked away for 30 days silently, came back as number 30 and then tossed out. He was already kind of 2 feet out the door, and it was the 11th hour that made him another offer he can't refuse. Big money, and the fact that now he'll stay. He's willing to put anybody over, do jobs, whatever on TV. He can leave after his matches. He doesn't need to stick around the arena. He can take outside projects. So that's kind of dumb. But, I mean, Dolph Ziggler, and I'm going to be very blunt when I say this, Dolph Ziggler for the last 3 or 4 years has been a guy who's been there for a paycheck. We've been well aware of this. He does not have the same energy and fire he did when he was feuding with Alberto Del Rio back in 2012, 2011, 2013, whenever that was. That's gone. That intensity, that desire is gone. He is jaded. He's really been a pathetic talent in the last few years. And if he wants to be upset about that description, do something about it, because he's pathetic. Watching him is pathetic to watch. His brother's more impressive than he is right now. And I think that's a testament as to how far Dolph Ziggler has fallen in the eyes of the fan base. Back to the subject, though, of the events, I think what you need to do is find ways to really distinguish these brands apart from one another. If you're going to put 205 Live on after SmackDown, make the Cruiserweights a SmackDown brand. They didn't even have Cruiserweights on the Raw brand this week. Add a Raw Women's Tag Team division to Raw if you want. Really emphasize that's the home brand of the women. Find ways to set these brands apart, and like you said, set legitimate dates. Right after WrestleMania, you can have the quote-unquote trade deadline. And then you can have the quote-unquote draft right after SummerSlam. And do it in a way where it makes sense. The trade deadline, you can only move 2 people, or you can only make 2 trades. And at the draft, you can only draft 3 people, but only one of them can be from another brand. Or screw that idea entirely and just make it an NXT draft. You know, find ways of making this seem more like a sport and less like Vince McMahon's jerking himself off to every new idea he likes. You know, if you only have like a small trade window of a week after WrestleMania and then come after SummerSlam, you're calling up NXT talent via the draft, that's a cool way to go about things. But would they do that? I don't know. You know, this seems like something that would be useful and would work well, but God knows that they haven't always done that.
Yeah, it's weird, and people could keep complaining about Ronda Rousey, but when you look at the state of SmackDown, you look at, like you said, just the travesty that has been Dolph Ziggler's career for the past few years. The stuff with Strowman on Raw was great, but for the one of the best things about that was we finally got to see him not tipping over something.
Mm-hmm.
They were about to run that into the ground, which was really getting old with him. So, they finally did something different. It was hella entertaining, but you get that. That's few and far in between. They don't even be able to keep that up on a consistent basis. So, that's why they bring in people like Rousey, so they can get the buzz, because they can't even get the buzz that they're looking for with their own booking, because a lot of times they end up booking against themselves. And I think somebody was talking about this on another show I was listening to, like talking about, does the company kind of book against itself because they don't want to get a star, build a star to that Main Street level of The Rock, and then see them leave, and then kind of make it in spite of the WWE instead of WWE being the reason that they're so big. So a lot of times the WWE build a person up and then they'll undercut them for whatever reason because they're too scared that they're going to get too big, and which I can 100% believe, because the company has clearly proven like they can kill anybody's buzz. Like, they finally got some momentum behind Nakamura with the Royal Rumble win, but he was treading water before that. So it's a conundrum, but it's stuff that we just got through talking about. The reason why Ronda is the biggest thing going right now, because she has that buzz, the buzz that they can't create for their own selves.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with the idea that they don't want to create another Rock, because they did with John Cena. Not maybe to that degree, but we have to keep this one thing in mind. We often compare John Cena to Hulk Hogan in terms of his run. Hulk Hogan was real hot for a while, but then he tapered off because he became very boring. Then he turned heel and got his mojo back. Stone Cold only had a 3.5 year run at the top. The Rock only had a 3.5 year run at the top. John Cena's had a 12+ year run without a heel turn at the top. So yeah, I think they did create another one with John Cena. I think the problem with today's wrestling, with today's WWE product, is Vince McMahon no longer has the ability to figure out what to do. He is constantly undercutting his own ideas. He's constantly making it harder for people to get ahead of things. There's always been this idea, for whatever reason, that Vince McMahon is a quote-unquote genius. He's not. The Undertaker took 12 years to become a draw. That's more us paying dues to him than Vince really finding a gem on that one. He didn't create Hulkamania. He bought it. Stone Cold Steve Austin, was someone that a lot of people liked before he went to the WWE. It wasn't like he found this hidden gem. You could argue he found and cultivated The Rock because, The Rock was getting very bad reviews at the start of his career. But a lot of these guys that he quote-unquote made were already on their way. So I look at the roster and I think to myself, the reason why some of these guys aren't getting the push or getting the just desserts that they deserve is because Vince is undercutting them. Braun Strowman's the one guy in how many goddamn years who's booked differently. He ever since like 2006, 2007, maybe even 2008, the WWE's gone to this fucking mentality of making every match on Raw and SmackDown 12 fucking minutes long. Back and forth. Every match got to be back and forth. No, every match does not need to be back and forth. You could have a Randy Orton 30-second squash match. That's okay. You can have Kevin Owens powerbomb somebody on the first move. That's okay. You can make things different. But then they do things where they start and stop pushes, or like, with O'Neal and Cruz. They won against Sheamus and Cesaro, and what came of it? Nothing. They lost. So the reason why they haven't created any major stars is because Vince McMahon's an idiot. Whether people want to agree with that or accept that is up to them. But the proof is in the pudding. He's an idiot. You look at what Triple H is doing in NXT with guys of lesser quality. He got Tyler Breeze over, for Christ's sakes. And then they go to the main roster, and Vince McMahon's just a giant douche sickle. That's why they're not succeeding. That's why they're struggling with creating new stars, and why they need to buy other stars from other promotions. Bobby Roode, AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura. Where do they all come from? Finn Balor. They didn't come from WWE's developmental territory, no matter how much they want to claim they did. No, they came from New Japan and Impact Wrestling. So suck my dick, Vince.
Yeah, and look at everything with Balor. A lot of draw with Balor was the whole switching up the paint and everything, and they ran that to the ground.
Yep. Partly because, though, and this is more on Balor. Balor got very famous for doing it on the indies because he was taking copywritten materials and doing them. He was doing Venom and Carnage and various other different kinds of comic book-based characters.
Yeah.
So you can't really do that on WWE television because you're going to want to market the Demon Balor, the Demon persona. And you're not going to be able to do so because, you can't put the Punisher logo on a WWE video game. So that bit Balor in the ass. The other thing that bit Balor in the ass is that he's not very charismatic.
Yeah. And I think we talked about it also. He didn't really do anything to differentiate that gimmick.
No, he really didn't.
Spin Balor and face paint. It's kind of like, it was like Willow and DNA, and there was a little switch up. I mean, I think Hardy did a lot more with that, kind of differentiate that from his regular kind of wacky, quirky personality. But, with Balor, it was just him and paint. It really was. It was him and paint.
Yeah, they tried to do that whole story where the Demon King of Scotland or whatever was going to inhabit him, but that was quickly dropped. But the Willow stuff was great because it coincided with EC3 and Rockstar Spud's real renaissance with the company.
Yeah.
That was like them going through the woods of Carolina was some of the funniest shit I've ever seen.
It really was. That was well.
So this is where I want to end the YouTube portion of the show. We have some New Japan conversation coming up here after the jump. So if you want to listen to the rest of the show, you got to download it. Download the rest of the show. We're at let's see, what minute? We'll say minute 51. Let's say minute 51. So for those of you who don't want to listen to the rest of the show, you can find us on realnerdcorp.com. Post podcasts and news every day. Marcus is at the Wrestling Mag. What is it called?
Total Wrestling Mag.
TotalWrestlingMag.co.uk.
Yep.
Link of which is also on the website as well. You can find him on Paradox Kid on Twitter, PARADOXKID.
That's me.
You can find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, as well as the website's Twitter at NERDCORP. And with all that being said, we will see you after the jump if you want to download the show, the link of which will be down below. Otherwise, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and join us here on the YouTubes every Wednesday morning or so as these shows go up. So with that being said, Marcus, why don't you take us home?
Good night.